It's Kate, Kelly, and PozzA, and it is the off season. So we're going to be doing a bit of a wrap up from the year. And to start, we're going to be doing a season summary. So this is going to cover some best moments, some best races, and just some of the other stuff that we never really got around to doing. But we just like to talk about it. So here we are. We're going to do best races first up, and we're going to start with Moto 3. Throughout the entire year, we did get some good battles, but it was a bit of David Alonso domination. But what race have you guys selected as your best race, and just why?
Phillip Island. I will stand by it. I think all of us would have said the same thing. I don't think I'm. I don't think you can say any other race for the season. It was of course, David Alonso dominated it. He's dominated the entire season. You can't really choose a race in which he hasn't dominated. I would have went for the race where Colin Vire won or got a podium, but he didn't win all season. And quite frankly, the races in which he got a podium were either claimed on unfortunate circumstances or a little hint to the crash over the line there, or it was just a boring race in terms of, yeah, I think it was just a genuinely good race. There was a massive, massive leading group and it caused me a bit of stress. So I'd say that one.
Just felt like it was sort of a more classic Moto 3 race with the sort of like 15, 16, 17 rider group at the front of the race. One of the highlights I thought, and I'm sure Kate would agree, was Stefano Neppa's comeback through the field, where he had, I think, 2 long lap penalties. He pretty much gave himself another long lap penalty in the process, and still managed to come through and almost took his first podium. But yeah, I thought it was a really good race. Obviously, Phillip Island's just a great track in general. But yeah, I thought that was definitely one of the races of the season.
Thankfully, I have not stuck to the status quo here. I've actually gone for Le Mans, mainly because the top three, it was quite a good battle. It could just be the bias of me being there, but it was just respectful but scrappy, and that's one of my favorite things about Moto 3 is how they're still so young and a bit reckless, and I just feel like Le Mans really personified that a bit. So that's why it's my best Moto 3 race of the season. I know for sure that I'm going to be watching it back. Moto 2, I'm very curious because this was such a strange Moto 2 year. What did you guys select?
Yeah, I thought this year there was a lot of contenders for this in Moto 2. It was a really good year as far as Moto 2 normally goes. But I've gone for, I'm not sure which Mazzano race it was exactly, but the Mazzano race that Celestino Vietti won, where himself, Aaron Canet, and Tony Arbolino were battling for pretty much half the race. Didn't know who was going to win until literally up until the line. The lead kind of swung between all three of them at different points on that last lap, and just Vietti out dragging Canet to the line out of the last corner. I thought was just a nice bit of action, and yeah, it was really exciting to watch live.
For my one, I've actually gone all the way back to Phillip Island again. It might not be everyone's choice for their favorite race of the season because I wouldn't say it was the best in terms of action, but it was my favorite race. I guess you can put it behind. I guess you can put it behind Furman Aldeguer winning. For Kate, unfortunately, it would have been hard because Aaron Kinnett came second, and he came second very, very late in the race. If you watched it, you know, and it's depressing for a couple of Aaron Kinnett fans. But I enjoyed it a lot. I really, really did. I thought it caused me a lot of stress, and I think it was a lot of unnecessary stress, especially with Zonta van der Gorberg. He had a pretty decent qualifying, and I was actually for him, and I was very excited to see him get some decent results out of it, and he just round because he crashed. Yay! It wasn't very yay. It was really depressing, and I cried. Alonso Lopez also went down, which just made it the tiniest bit worse. Jake Dixon went down. So Celestino Vietti didn't start it, so I didn't have that much stress with him because I expected him to not be there. But in terms of DNFs, it was a hard race for that. But in other terms, it was really good for racing and caused a lot of drama. So that's my favorite of the season.
I do have to admit, I came so close to putting Phillip Island, purely being in both the fan clubs for Aaron Canet and Fermin Aldeguer. It was incredible to watch their battle and the way they push the limits. But without a doubt, mine has to be Qatar, purely because yes, it was the first race of the season, but it was so utterly bizarre, and it sort of set up Moto 2 for the year in the fact that this year Moto 2 was just a little bit chaotic, a little bit unpredictable, and yeah, overall, it was just quite a surprise, and I feel like Qatar set us up for that, and so that's why it's mine. For MotoGP, our starters off, I've gone with Assen. I think this is purely based on the fact that Enea Bastianini qualified poorly and then had to fight his way through the field, but we got lots of good overtakes, lots of good battles. I always love Assen. As PozzA is well aware, I think Assen 2018 is the greatest race to exist, but this year it was also my favourite for the year. What about you two?
Yeah, I had a few options I was sort of weighing up for this, but in the end, I've ended up going for the one race that Ducati didn't end up winning, which was in America at the Circuit of the Americas. Vinales took the win, but there was a pretty good fight at the front between like 4 or 5 riders for the win, including Pedro Costa, who took, I believe, his second podium of his GP career in what was his third race. But yeah, I thought normally going into Coda, I don't really have any expectations because it doesn't normally produce good races. But yeah, I thought this one was especially good, and yeah, that's why I've put it.
Pause. Don't hate me. Um, I would go as well purely because it was like a non Ducati dominant race. I promise. I this seems like a really copying him and it sucks. But I had it not because Vinales won. I'm not really a massive fan of Vinales and I really stand by it. I think he's just too mid. Sorry, he's mid and he was quite lucky to get this win, in my opinion. It was more so the fact that Pedro Acosta got that podium because when you come in as a rookie, nobody really expects you to, get podiums in like your first 5 races. They just kind of want you to cruise along, maybe get a point, and then build up from there. But he just went straight into it and got his podium, and he was fighting for it as well. It was so awesome to see. He didn't really carry that the whole way through the season. He kind of fell off near the end, but as I said, he's a rookie. Definitely feel as though he can come back in 2025. But it was so awesome to see him get that podium so quickly. And then, of course, Enea Bastianini on the podium. Where have I ever complained about that? Um, my the big thing I think was both championship contenders in Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia actually ended up off the podium. Jorge just that tiniest bit ahead of Pecco. That's what had me shocked. I was like, oh, because normally you expect them both to be consistently on the podium where they weren't. Marc Marquez crashed. Depressing, we'll put it that way. Um, I actually genuinely expected him to get a good result there as well. So it kind of sucked to see him go down like that. But what else can you expect? Honda had a bit of a howler. I can't really put it any other way. Joan Mir went down. Shock horror, a 70% DNF rate. That is awful. That's so bad. And then Luca Marini finished dead last. Marco Bezzecchi finishing 8th, which for how his season went, I'm quite happy with. Overall, genuinely good race, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, clearly the two of you are two peas out of the same pod with your very similar answers. But Let's see if that theme continues into our best moments of the season. So, again, we're doing all three classes. We're going to start with Moto 3. What was your best moment of the season?
It was Japan. It was Japan. Um, my honestly, my best result of the season or best moment of the season was probably the 2024 Moto3 Japanese Grand Prix, and that is because Colin Vire got a podium, which for how his season went, probably a good thing. It was one of the races that I genuinely felt happy. Um, so I would definitely put that as my moment of the season because, yeah, I just needed it. I genuinely needed it. And if I didn't get it, I would have cried. So it was fun to see. And it was actually a good race as well. Of course, it was a little bit overshadowed by David Alonso winning the championship, but I'm happy with that, you know. I had one favourite rider finish win the championship, and I had another finish on the podium. So that would be my moment.
I actually had the same race as my moment of the season, but for a different reason, which was David Alonso's World Championship title celebration, where he got out the mini bike that he rode as a kid, and just sort of that whole celebration scene on the back straight, especially when he fell off the bike and the graphics person decided to throw up the crash graphic. I thought that was just a nice touch for the moment. And yeah, sort of just summed up Alonso's season that race. He did what he did for most of his victories, where he just sat back for a bit and then scythed through the field. So yeah, that was my Moto3 moment of the year.
Well, the Japanese Grand Prix for Moto 3 isn't my moment of the year, but the common theme is David Alonso. He had so many great celebrations this year from the unicycle, from his World Championship one. But my moment was when he replicated Rossi's win after matching his record. I just thought that was such an excellent celebration and such a nod to Rossi, which it's so nice when you see the riders respect the history of the sport. So yeah, I just couldn't fault that at all, and so that's definitely why it's my moment. Moto 2, I'll start with my moment because it's sort of probably obvious if you do listen to the podcast. I'm a massive Aaron Canet fan, and it's got to be the Portugal Grand Prix. Admittedly, there are a few heart attacks in those last few laps when he kicked his leg out, and I thought he was crashing. But he won the race, his first win. Thankfully, not his only win this year. I just, yeah, I ended up taking the next day off work. I was that, like, happy. So, easily my Moto 2 moment. What about you two?
The two, I've actually gone with the Austrian Grand Prix for Celestino Vietti's first win of the season. It actually, for me at least, it came very out of the blue. I wasn't actually expecting him to win it, but I wasn't complaining about it. I really want to see Celestino do well. I genuinely do. He's such a nice lad to watch, and it was so nice to see him happy on the podium. And in terms of the race, it actually wasn't very bad. For my other riders, it sucked a bit because Zonda van der Gorberg, 18th, Fermanagh de Guerre, 20th. It was like, in terms of that, it was very, very bad. In terms of pause, it probably wasn't too bad because Dennis Andrew finished 11th. But yeah, the podium made up Vietti, Lopez, and Dixon. These are all riders I really like, and yeah, I loved it. I was really happy that weekend.
Yeah, this one won't be shocking to you guys, but for mine, I've gone for the Aragon Grand Prix. Primarily the fact that Dennis Onchu took the first podium of a rookie in the class, and obviously his first podium. It was mainly the fact that it came in the second race after he'd come back from a month or 2 month long injury, and obviously in Moto 2 as a rookie, you need that running time to sort of just get better and perform. So the fact that he managed to be so strong so soon after that injury, which from what we could tell was a pretty nasty injury, I thought that was worth putting it up there as moment of the season.
Normally, I'd shame you for bias, but that did actually cross my mind as moment of the season as well, because, like you said, such an impressive comeback from injury. It's, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do next year. Let's put it that way. So, moving on to MotoGP, what was your moment of the season? Because there were so many moments this year.
Yeah, for mine, I've gone with primarily the first 5 or 6 laps of the Sepang Grand Prix, just with how Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia were absolutely just sending it on each other. As soon as one rider would make an overtake, the other one would try and hit straight back. And obviously, with how close the title was at that stage, I thought that was just a nice bit of action, really exciting to watch. And in the end, Bagnaia did end up winning, but I think the fact that Jorge ended up winning the title sort of makes it up for him in a way. But yeah, that was my moment of the GP season.
Okay, right. You guys may call me the tiniest bit biased, but I've gone with the Spanish Grand Prix purely because of Marco Bezzecchi getting a podium. Yeah, I genuinely it was like a decent race in terms of that, but like also Marco Bezzecchi getting a podium after struggling, and he's literally struggled the entire rest of the season. So I was just happy for him to get that podium because it gave me the little bit of hopium that he would actually do well. He didn't. He didn't do well, but aside from that, genuinely good. The race had a lot of DNFs though, and it was quite traumatizing to watch, including Jorge Martin. Like I looked back there and I thought, yeah, he's not winning this championship. So I'd like to tell my past self that I was very extremely wrong because he won that. He won that himself. He genuinely did. Yeah, there was nothing much more to know apart from Honda having a stinker, Yamaha having a stinker. What else do you expect from them, to be fair? Yeah, I loved it. Every minute of it I loved, and probably my moment of the season.
The Spanish Grand Prix, I almost put down. In fact, initially I did, as my race of the season, just because of the amazing battle between Mark and Pecco that we got. But overall, my moment of the season for MotoGP has to be Alicia Spargaro at that sprint result after he announced retirement. It was just bittersweet in a way. And I mean, I was bawling when he announced his retirement, even though I think it's the right choice. Just to get such a good result after he retired, like announcing it at his home Grand Prix, it was just, yeah, quite heartwarming. And it healed a part of my soul that died when he announced he retired. Those are our moments of the season. So there's one topic that I gave you both less left left to discuss, and that is the best surprise of 2024. This one we're not doing by classes, we're just doing an overall best surprise. So who would like to start?
I'm gonna go straight in with bias, and I will say Vire finishing third in the Moto3 Championship. Now I know, bias, very, very strong bias, but considering how some of his performance during the season went, I genuinely believed, like even though hardcore fan, I genuinely believed that he wasn't going to get it. But then he pulled through in the last race of the season. He performed very well, and he managed to finish high enough to get that third in the championship. And for me, big fat surprise because I thought he was going to like for like a couple of minutes. I thought he was going to finish fifth. Like that's how bad it got. Like with crashes and like really bad high sides. I thought he was going to be out with injury. It got like at some points with some of the high sides he's had. But yeah, no, he genuinely pulled through and he did very well to get that third in the championship, and I have no complaints whatsoever.
I'm gonna go for one of the Moto2 rookies, and it's not gonna be the ones that you guys will immediately expect. I'm gonna go for Diogo Moreira, just because I feel like not many people were really expecting him to be in the top rookie fight to begin with, and the fact that he ended up winning top rookie in the end was quite impressive. Beating out Senna Agis, who had obviously all the European Moto2 experience, uh, was a good effort, and you could see that through the year he was learning more and more how to control a race and not like burning up his tires immediately. So I think he'll improve again next year. So that's why he's my surprise of the year.
One biased choice and one really good choice, but I'm going to put my own choice first because I don't know, I'm the host and I can do that. My best surprise of this season was Pirelli tires and what they've done for the sport, because honestly, it's been amazing what they've actually been able to achieve. And I guess bringing that excitement back into Moto 2 when we just didn't have it, I suppose, last year. I'm just really happy with that. And I mean, I can't see them going anywhere when they come up for renewal, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, those are our best races, our season summary of the year. We will be here through the off season with content like this, some bizarre hot takes, and we will get on to some Larry predictions later this year or early next year. So for now, have a wonderful week.